think they're ready to surrender?
आईएनए की बागी फौजियों पर अंग्रेज देशद्रोह का मुकदमा चलाएंगे।
उन तीनों के बचने के चांसेस कम हैं।
ये कोई आम केस नहीं, कोर्ट मार्शल है। बोला भाई, ये केस आप कांग्रेस के लिए नहीं, सुभाष बोस के लिए लड़ी।
Lieutenant Gobak Singh Dillon, Captain Shah Nawaz Khan, Captain P.K. Sehgal. Section 41, waging war against the king. You are charged with murder. Do you plead guilty to the charges read out?
ईमानदारी से आजादी के लिए लड़ने वाली अगर कोई फौज है तो उसका नाम है आजाद हिंद फौज।
The safety, honor and welfare of your country comes first, always.
British Indian Army hand you over to the Japanese Imperial Army.
हिंदुस्तान और अंग्रेजों के बीच एक धागा था, वो टूट गया।
इस बार कुछ ऊपर नीचे हुआ तो देश में बवाल मच जाए। अब जनता किसी अंग्रेज को नहीं छोड़ेगी।
रात दिन अपने सीने विच वजदी आजादी दे राग नू बंद कर ला।
अंग्रेजी अफसरों ने साडी हिफाजत नहीं की, तो वो हमारी वफादारी के हकदार किस तरह हो सकते हैं?
आज हिंदुस्तानी फौज के पास अपना असली मकसद है, हिंदुस्तान की आजादी।
तुम मुझे खून दो, मैं तुम्हें आजादी दूंगा।
ये मुकदमा पूरी इंडियन नेशनल आर्मी का है।
क्योंकि हमने वो दिन देखा है जब हमें ऐसा लगा था कि हमने हिंदुस्तान को वाकई आजाद कर दिया।
देश की आजादी की लड़ाई कोर्ट में लड़ी जा रही है और इस वक्त पूरा देश एक साथ तैनात है।
This trial and its judgment shall be remembered throughout history.
Hello and a warm welcome to our special edition of To The Point. As the country gets ready to meet its tryst with destiny moment with the GST tax regime rolling out on July 1st, we speak to the man of the moment, Finance Minister Arun Jaitley. I welcome, sir, on To The Point. My first question to you on a lighter note would be that, is the Finance Minister getting enough sleep or is it lost to GST?
No, I think the kind of overwhelming support the GST has received from all quarters, whether it's public, whether it's trade, industry, whether it is political parties, state governments, I think it's been far smoother than what I had originally anticipated. And therefore, I do hope the rollout also is without any major hiccups.
Can I ask you that it is one of the biggest defining moments of your life?
It certainly is, because you see, GST financially integrates India. The impact of GST is that, let's say, a product manufactured in Gujarat sells in Uttar Pradesh, and therefore, how is the taxes going to be shared across the country? GST allows a free flow of goods and services across the country. You won't have trucks now waiting at the nakas. You won't have different rates for different states. You won't have to pay tax at various stages without getting any accounting advantage of tax already paid. You don't pay tax on tax. Now, these are the great advantages of the GST itself. And I think when it eases, and you don't have multiple taxes. I was counting just now. There are 17 taxes and 23 cesses which have been merged into one. So if you are to pay a few of these 17 taxes, you will have to file multiple returns. You will have multiple interface. You will go and engage chartered accountants each time and file your return. Today you have just one return. It's filed on your online. You just go online and get your GST number through your application. And against that number, before the 10th of every month, you file your transactions of the last month. That's all you have to do. There is no interface with an authority. So the impact of compliance burden that goes down, the possibility of harassment, loss of time, corruption that goes down, in many cases you are going to receive your assessment orders online. That's something in income tax we've already done.
But why is there a certain paranoia which people see protests coming from certain quarters?
There are two reasons. One is the fear of unknown.
Okay.
Second is that some people had in the existing system developed a vested interest because it was easy to evade. GST as a more efficient system is not so easy to evade. And therefore, there is a fear that I was getting away without payment in the earlier occasions. Today, it's not going to be possible. A more efficient system will therefore ensure compliance. And compliance will mean accountability. In the long run, if you see, it's a patriotic duty to pay your taxes. Are you not supposed to pay for the army? Are you not supposed to pay for the police? Are you not supposed to pay for all the infrastructure that you enjoy in this country? The country needs resources. Governments in the center and the states are being run by borrowing money from people. And on the other hand, you have a situation where people who can afford it and should be paying taxes are not paying taxes. And the honest man who's paying taxes is not only paying his own share of taxes, but is also paying the share of the non-compliant. So that's the situation in the country. Now, we are a large country with 130 crore people. Of these 17 taxes which are being merged into one, how many out of these 130 crores were paying these indirect taxes? Just take a guess. And you'll get the compliance idea. 130 करोड़ के देश में कितने लोग indirect taxes दे रहे थे? Excise, service tax, VAT, purchase tax and various other taxes. 80 lakhs. Not even 1 crore. And therefore, in the long run, your tax base has to increase. That only indicates the level of non-compliance.
Like Finance Minister of West Bengal, Amit Mitra, says that it's going to hamper the cause of the small and the medium-sized traders.
How will it? You see, when people have lost all arguments against GST, they go and rely on the small. Up to 20 lakhs, there is no tax, no registration. Up to 75 lakhs, if you are trading, you pay 1%. If you are manufacturing, you pay 2%. Up to 75 lakh turnover. And if you are beyond 75 lakhs, then I'm afraid you are not so small. Then you can afford to get somebody to help you how to put an entry into a computer. All you need is one entry in the computer. And therefore, West Bengal and some other friends must make up their mind. Are they for GST? Are they against GST? You see, you can't have multiple positions of the GST. You need to have only one position. And mind you, these are state governments like West Bengal who are privy to every decision of the GST Council.
Exactly.
So this can't go on indefinitely. This is not responsible governance by us, that we agree to a decision in the council and publicly we take another position.
But GST Council, the way it came up and the kind of decisions which were taken, it's almost seen like a federal institution coming up.
It is India's first federal institution. There were no division on political lines. There was no voting. There used to be a fitment committee. There was a legal committee and there were several other committees of officers. They used to consider on merits and the councils used to sit like a judge, consider those recommendations, consider what other people were complaining to us, and then take an appropriate decision and decide. There was no division ever on political lines, and every decision has been by a consensus.
But how hopeful are you, Mr. Jaitley, in future? Because obviously there is a lot of dependence on the states.
You see, I am hopeful, and let me tell you, the Congress-ruled states participated in this proceeding, and most of them had a very responsible positioning inside the council. At least I really can't have a grievance. Look at the kind of people who headed the empowered committee of state finance ministers. You had Dr. Aseem Das Gupta of the left, you had Sushil Modi of the BJP, you had Abdul Rahim Rathar of the National Conference, you had KM Money, then you had Amit Mitra. So people of all shades have led this whole campaign. You had Mr. Chidambaram announcing it in his budget. You had Pranab Babu moving the amendment to the Constitution. You had Yashwant Sinha as a head of the standing committee suggesting changes. Then you had, I had an opportunity to move the Constitution amendment. And finally, everybody voted in favor of the amendment and the bills. So in that sense, there is a larger national consensus. We've realized that the present system was inefficient. A new system had to come in.
Despite whatever political decisions do exist in reality, people within the GST Council have come up and spoken to the media saying that Arun Jaitley is a man with 3 Ps, patience, pragmatism and politeness. So was that the quality which really helped you evoke a lot of consensus?
I realized one thing, that if you are to create a federal institution, you can't do it just on the strength of majority. We had the numbers. If only the NDA states got together, we could pass anything. But we didn't do it. We did not even hold a single meeting separately of BJP or NDA finance ministers. There were proposals that we mooted where BJP ministers were opposed to it. And then finally we worked out a consensus. And the idea was to, since it's a precedent we are setting in the GST Council, we should do it by a consensus and not do it by a majoritarianism. And we followed that principle, and I'm glad, without exception, every finance minister of a state, irrespective of his party, rose to the occasion. So whether it was Hasib Darabu from Jammu and Kashmir, or Amit Mitra from Bengal, or Dr. Isaac from Kerala, or Krishna Bairagoda used to come from Karnataka, or somebody from Chhattisgarh, or Madhya Pradesh, everyone then became a part of the larger consensus. And I must say, to the credit of regional political parties, whether it was the JDU in Bihar or the TRS or the Biju Janata Dal, they all acted with a sense of responsibility. Take Tamil Nadu. As a state government, they had opposed the GST. But once the council was created, they fully participated in every meeting.
So coming to the big concerns which are coming out, that, the IT infrastructure is not ready, there will be billions of invoices which will be,
See,
uploaded.
I think, let's be very clear, these are all fears of unknown. You already have something close to 65 to 70 lakh firms which have registered themselves. So the IT infrastructure is doing the registration. The returns are now to be filed for the first month on an extended date up to 15th September. The IT experts have told me that they are fully ready. The last of our rules was drafted only on 18th of June. So 18th of June rules, when they are converted into a software, today we are only on the 28th. 10 days ago the rules were finally framed. So it will take some time. Now they've still done it. The only thing is that they wanted some extra time for testing, which they are doing it, which will be done, I have no doubt. But in an operation of this kind, where you have crores and crores of vouchers which are to be matched, you can have some hiccups. But then technology has its own strength, it finds its own solutions, and then within a matter of hours, those hiccups are removed in the IT structure.
I'll quote what Mr. Amit Mitra only said, that we could have rolled out GST in September, at least more trials could have happened.
This is not my decision, this is the decision of the GST Council, a unanimous decision to roll it out on the 1st of July. And mind you, whether you do it on 1st of July or the 1st of September, the hiccups will be the same.
Okay. So another thing which I wanted to ask you was that there are close to 82 lakh traders in the country, and have all of them got their application registration numbers?
You see, out of the 80 lakh existing ones, 65 lakhs had already registered as of early this month.
Okay.
Some figure will come down from 80 lakhs for the reason that some people were originally registered both for VAT and for excise. Now they need only one registration, so some figure can come down. Now, in addition to the migrants from the old system to the new applicants plus the migrants are registered. Now it's open on tap. It's permanently open, the software, And by the minute, people are registering themselves.
Okay. So there's no scare factor as far as the registration.
Bulk of the people have already registered themselves. Now those who had missed the bus are coming and trickling in.
Okay. Why are the corporates also fretting that, the rules are not in place and
The rules have all been framed. You see, conventionally in the battle for economic reforms, private sector is always miles ahead of the government. These days, the government is miles ahead of the private sector.
It's just the other way.
So they expected that the government will never be ready by the 1st of July. So we are ready. I hope the private sector also responds.
No, but like, for example, they are talking about, these different rules which they're saying that input tax credit, transition, composition, valuation, and then you have the different tax slabs.
All rules have been framed. All rules have been translated into a software for their implementation, and the GSTN is fully confident of rolling it out.
Coming to the awareness program by the government, from certain quarters we heard that the tax officials who are going on the field, since the regime is new and the systems are also new for them, so they find it hard, they find it difficult to convince the people on the ground. Is that correct?
No, not at all. I think there is a huge support. Most businesses in this country, overwhelming majority, are more than happy. They don't want to see the face of their tax official. For them, it's an ideal situation that instead of 17 taxes and 23 cesses, you have only one. And that return is online. And hopefully your assessment is also online. And you get your order online. Now, what can be better for a business than this? And therefore, I do hope that businesses realize the benefit of a system in which the assessing officer is invisible.
When you talk about an over-dependence on the online systems, obviously there's extra expenditure for the firms also. So how is the government really convincing the traders? Because
you see, these are very marginal. These are not very costly technologies. This is not rocket science. You see, all amongst your new, it's like operating your mobile phone. You just register yourself and then you get your registration number. And after that, what do you have to do? If you are business to business, you have to give more details, that who you have sold or purchased from. If you are business to customer, you have to give your lump sum figure. So it's almost akin to sending an SMS.
When you say that it's going to be one nation, one tax, like the corporates are saying that it's different slabs and different items have to be fitted under the categories.
I think this whole idea of one slab is suggested by those who don't understand the system. I'll answer them by a simple question. Was food items required to be under 0? Or was it required to be 15%? It has to be 0 tax because every man uses it. Now come to the other products. An example which I have repeatedly been giving, should Hawaii chappal and Mercedes car be taxed at the same rate? So these so-called proponents of one tax theory, one slab theory, overlook that there is an equity. Who is the consumer? So what we did was we followed the principle of equivalence. What is it that you are paying today? We put you in the slab nearest to it. So that least amount of disruption is there. And that is why there is no disruption.
As far as the 28% tax slab is concerned, there are fears that, the production might be hit, if
but these are all people who are giving 31.6 in the old system. So it is 31.6, excise, VAT, CST and cascading effect. The tax items which were taxed at 31.6 have been brought down to 28. Many have been brought down to 18.
But also would like to understand from you, Mr. Jaitley, how is the jewellery part going to be taxed now? Not many things are very clear as there's going to be an additional...
Clear. You see, in most cases, except Kerala, which was having a VAT of about 5%, most states had a VAT of 1% and there was an excise duty of 1%. Today, the GST rate has been fixed at 3%. So it's as simple as this.
Does it change? Does it remain flexible or it's going to be like that?
It's a 3% flat rate at the moment. And I'm told the jewellery industry, which was originally at the time of excise of 1%, which was protesting, are extremely delighted. They have come and thanked me for only putting 3%.
But there were a lot of representations from various sectors which had come into the finance ministry.
We are a fair body. We considered those representations. Some 60 odd cases we have reviewed also. We made changes where we found there was a substance, and it is not only the central government, it is the states and the center who sit collectively and consider those representations.
Despite all the convincing which the government is doing and also the awareness programs which have been launched by the government, why are we seeing protests from certain quarters like the diamond traders in Surat, cloth merchants from Maharashtra?
Some people had managed the system to keep themselves out of the taxation system. Officially there was a tax, but actually there was nothing being paid. Today, this is a tax which you can't escape. And some protest, therefore, is understandable.
So, are you going to speak to these people? Or
No, we will. We certainly hope. You see, the GST Council, if there is a legitimate grievance, please represent to us, we'll consider it. We won't be pressurized. We'll consider it only on merits.
What about the preparedness of the banks? Many people are saying that the front-end technology systems, they need to be reconfigured.
Well, let us see now. The proof of the pudding will be the eating. If there is some initial problem with some banks, I'm sure they'll rectify it.
Mr. Jaitley, what we saw when demonetization was announced, we saw a lot of notifications coming in and, people then
No, when you experiment a new system, fresh contingencies will arise and you'll have to deal with them. Merely because you are dealing with them and issuing a fresh notification doesn't mean that everything is wrong. That means that you are aware of what's going on and therefore you are trying to resolve a problem.
Like when demonetization decisions were coming in and when the notifications were coming in, people said that government is trying to go in for a trial and error method. And
there is no trial and error method. There is no SOP of demonetization. There was no standard operating procedure. And therefore, since it was a new experiment for India, you had to learn on the spot and rectify. As a responsive government, it's your duty to rectify.
Like what you said, that all the rules are in place. But as far as the e-way mechanism is concerned,
there was still no full consensus on that. There were two views in the council. So we've allowed the existing status quo to continue till such time we decide the e-way mechanism.
Okay. But sir, there are a lot of concerns over the anti-profiteering clause as well. Obviously, it will be there to protect the consumers.
I do hope it is transient. And I do hope we don't have to use it. Because the object is to have a power in the initial stages, in the transformation stages. Particularly when tax relief is being given, please pass it on to the consumer. Don't pocket the profits.
There are also fears that, like across the world, where we're all in the nations where GST has been implemented, we've seen it is followed by an economic slowdown. How optimistic are you?
I don't think so. You see, you were dealing with societies which were tax compliant. Here you are dealing with a society which is substantially tax non-compliant. So more revenues with the government, more money to be spent by governments is going to boost up your GDP. It's not going to slow down your GDP.
But is it because of the non-compliance factor that the government went in for a dual GST? Like, for example, we see the Commonwealth nations.
I think it's a non-compliance is certainly a factor, but so is the compliance burden. Why must you have multiple taxes?
When GST rolls out, what is the biggest challenge which you see coming up the very next day?
I think how do people adjust to the technology? How do various businesses now find it more convenient to follow that system? Where is it that we find that there is a blockade in the system and we have to change those procedures? I think we'll all learn on the spot.
But as far as the GST Suvidha providers are concerned, how many GSPs have you actually roped in for?
No, I think the department will have the details. I can't give it to you offhand, but there are a very large number of them. The fact that already 80 to 90% of the existing assessees have migrated means there is some Suvidha in the society.
Talking to you about the politics of GST, what we saw that when demonetization came, there were a lot of criticisms that Modi government has taken a political risk, but it turned into a dividend which the government reaped, as we saw during the elections results which came out. Do you think GST is also a political compromise?
No, I think it's an economic measure by a society. It's something which has been debated by different governments over a 15-year period. It's something which will help the country.
So when this transition to GST happens, are the history books going to record? Are they going to record it as Mr. Jaitley's legacy?
No, I am not interested in what credit or discredit I get. I think it's the whole system which has worked on it, and therefore the system must be given the due credit for it.
Thank you, Mr. Jaitley, for coming to our program.
Thank you.
So that's it on this episode of To The Point. See you next time with another personality. Goodbye and thanks for watching.